Hello once more, welcome back to the place where we begin all of our runs, the menu page. This is Ahmed Rashid with the 5 Elves, 5 Lives, 5 Lives, 5 Elves series of videos, and I'm ready to continue them now. Elf-4 has recently passed, as those of you who have been watching the videos know, and we all mourn his passage, but where there is death there is hope, because his yada yada yada. Anyway. Given the success I've had with that build in the most recent run, and just how entertaining it was, I'm going to run another elf with an almost identical build. The difference is, that time I started with daggers, focusing on stabbing, and eventually transitioned into using blades when my stabbing was no longer getting the damage levels I needed. In doing this, I was definitely aided by cross-training, which helped to bring up my skills relatively quickly in long blades. I could do that exact same pattern again, but what I'd like to try to do this time is instead open with long blades, if at all possible. I also kept running into weight and strength issues last time, so working with long blades, which have more of a 3 to 10 ratio rather than 2 to 10 ratio for strength to dex requirements, will give me an added incentive to buff strength one more time rather than having to buff dex each time. And that's kind of where I'm going to go with this. Other than that, I consider this run is going to be pretty much identical to the last run, depending how well it goes. At this point, you all should be very, very familiar with how I generally like to run the dungeon, especially early on, and what my usual choices are. So I'm not going to spend as much time as usual discussing, each of my individual choices. For that, you're more than welcome to view old videos. I recommend the last 17 parts of this series, which is, for all that I had died, is still proving to be a very awesome series. Instead, while I'm doing the early stages of the dungeon, just trying to level up a little bit and get some experience, and find the Ecumenical Temple and or Okuwaru Altar, I'm going to go ahead and just discuss some observations I had over the last run. Also, for those of you who are interested, every time you die in this game, a morgue file is generated, which has a whole lot of information, including where you leveled up, what floor, major encounters, usually with just the unique enemies, and most interesting to me, of course, because I'm that kind of guy, a master kill list, which shows every single kill of every single enemy that you faced in the entire crawl through the dungeon. So I will be posting that up somewhere, and expect the link to appear in one of my YouTube comments at some point, basically. So, yeah, so look forward to that. But anyway, I wanted to discuss some more general observations I've had as I've been running the elves through the meat hanger, and observations of crawl and its nature in general. Firstly, realize that when I ran Elf-2 and Elf-3, I did nothing very significantly different, but one of those elves ended up dead within a floor, actually like within I think 200-300 turns total, whereas the other elf went on to become one of my top 5. What's the difference between the two? Very bluntly spoken, I would call it luck. Nothing really else but just that, plain good old-fashioned luck. I ran into 3 jackals before I could deal with them, and I immediately was limited to just my magic dart, quite like I am now, where I'm being chased by 3 things, but where there I had the misfortune of meeting them with less distance and on the first floor. Here I have more distance and I'm on the second floor, so 1, I have somewhere to retreat to, and 2, I have the time that I will successfully be able to retreat to somewhere. So, things like that happen very, frankly, to me at least, very often on the first floor. I know that the better players, like people like Hyperbolic, die less early on even than I do. However, like it or not, for whatever reason, the first couple floors, you really can't do much to control your luck. And I think there couldn't be a better case example than this. That I've run 3 identical starting elves with 3 identical patterns, and one of them was dead immediately, the other went on to become one of my best, and this guy isn't dead yet. So that's one thing I'd like to point out, strength. Second thing I'd like to point out is that this whole cross-training spellcasting thing is very effective. Especially if you have decent aptitudes to wherever you're going to. Later on, I attempted a similar stunt with a kobold, where I started him as a conjurer, and then tried to transition into using slings primarily for a damage source, because they have massive bonuses to slings. Problem is, kobolds are naturally bad at magic, and I say that like it's not obvious, but it should be fairly obvious that they are. The result is that it took a whole lot more training, even with a whole lot more training with spellcasting and such, just to get my magic up to a point where Mephitic Cloud was easily castable. It wasn't a matter of, like the elf, where I began with Mephitic Cloud being fair, and I already have it memorized, for those of you who haven't been paying attention and noticed that. Now it's already up to good from above fair. I'm going to continue training spellcasting till it hits a level 5, I think. Maybe a bit more, but at least level 5. I would like to get some blade training in. At the very least, I want it to be capable of focus training it at will. But I don't want to die getting to that point, so probably shouldn't melee snakes yet. Especially since I haven't yet identified which potions are health and which ones aren't. Okay, anyway. So that's one major observation, that this hybrid build, while very fun, very effective, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it in general. I would say that you should play to your character. In the case of the elf, it works, so this is very suitable for an elf style of play. That's one observation. Another is directionality of daggers. As cool as it is to have a true blade, I'm not so sure anymore that I think daggers are a viable endgame tool. Maybe I just don't play it correctly, and if I had been specializing in stabbing and had like 20 levels of stabbing, as well as some means of imparting confusion onto a non-mephiticable enemy. I know these spells exist in the game, like Ensorcelled Hibernation or whatever, along with, high magic skill and power to get through the magic resistance that high-level creatures have. If I had all of that going for me, then I could stab people even when they were resisted poison and had a lot of hit dice. But for a hybrid like this guy, oh yes, early Amulet of the Gourmand. For a hybrid like this guy, there's a lot less to be said for doing something like that. So I'm not so certain that I would recommend going that route of using daggers half-heartedly. If you're gonna do daggers, commit to the things. Don't switch to long blades halfway. Don't be and have some solution for when enemies start getting really high hit dices and aren't going to be impressed by your pesky little stabs that they can armor off easily. Last observation I'd like to point out is that troll armor of regeneration. I always knew it had good regeneration ability, but that allows me to recover much faster. So instead of having to go up a staircase every time, I can just dance and roughly get back 1 HP per turn or two, especially at higher levels. I don't know if regeneration ability increases as you increase in level or not, but certainly I noticed it at the higher levels, that I was able to get an obscene amount of health back very quickly. Further, going the AC route makes me a lot more capable as a melee fighter, and while an archer, you would think, doesn't have any need of that, the fact of the matter is you are bound to come up against swarms, and you don't want to be forced to kite every single time. Especially if you're like me and you like mephiticking a lot, then you're going to be even less prepared for when they get past your defenses. You have arrows of dispersal for the truly tough enemies, but they auto-mulch, so you can't exactly afford to spend arrows of dispersal on every other enemy you find. This is probably the Kobold Conjurer I was telling you about. He probably didn't even get Mephitic Cloud up. Yep, didn't even get Mephitic Cloud up. Kobolds are very bad conjurers. Never run a kobold as a conjurer. So anyway, yep. So Trollish leather armor was very helpful, and because I realize that now, what I'm going to do is immediately begin training armor from level whatever I am, like 1, or not 1, whatever level I am now, 3 or 4, as soon as I have some leather armor, and I was lucky I found some good leather armor instead of some crap leather armor, instead of training my evasion. If I can get my leather armor to a solid spot nice and early, then when I eventually do find a troll to kill, and I can wear his troll armor nicely. And if I never find a troll, I'll still at least be having, I'll still at least have armor skill and be able to wear decent armor. Always play to your character is kind of a good motto, and elves should not be focusing armor because they have bonuses to dodging and stealth and penalties to shield and armor. But if you play like I do and you like bashing things in the head a lot, well, it's only a -1 penalty. It's not like a -4 or 5 where you should never even consider going that route. Okay, so I told you guys about the armor. What else was it? Oh, yes. Getting gifts from Okuwaru. I fell through a shaft, so I'm now 3 floors lower than I'd like to be, and I'm urgently looking for some way out of here, rather than looking to make a base for myself and fight. I still don't have the main reason is I still don't have a god, and without a god, any kills are kind of sort of wasteful because all of these kills could have been crediting towards my piety. That does not mean by any stretch of imagination that you don't kill things that you can. I mean, you've got to go ahead and make the most of... You've got to do that just for the sake of survival. What it does mean is I don't plan to clear this floor. The only reason I'm poking around is because the shape of these tells me that there's something in the middle. And the fact that I see wargs and orcs makes me think it's probably just the orcish mines. Oh, crap. This is not a mythical enemy, is it? I may be losing the run right here to these guys because I fell down 3 floors and have no means of dealing with them. I am going to consume all of my potions, hoping that one of them will help. But really, the outlook is grim here. I don't have anything that's going to help here. I mean, the solution was simple. I shouldn't have fallen down, but I guess you can just chalk that up to bad luck. And then when I saw a staircase up, I should have done what I said I would do and immediately left the floor, rather than explored a little further hoping I'd find the temple. But this is what happens when you try to outsmart yourself. Oh, wow, I got lucky. The wargs didn't push the orc out of the way. So the warg stayed behind, the orc came up, and I didn't die. I did, however, burn through 3 or 4 potions of healing and heal wounds, which is going to mean that I'm going to be even more crippled later on in the game. Of course, it's better to be crippled later in the game than, you know, crippled and dead. You may notice that at this point I'm still playing as if I was a caster, because my blade skills suck. The only reason I'm stabbing Ijib right now instead of shooting him is because I don't want to run out of Mephidics. But I miscasted a Mephidic, so that's no longer my option now, is it? Let's just keep stabbing him. And throw a spear at him. And stabbing him. And stabbing him, and he's dead. Okie dokie. That's Ijib, and I now have his dagger, which is enchanted at least. Let's see what they've got in the book boutique. I don't know what these books all contain, but I do know that the only spells I really care about are Blink, Abjuration, which they have for 1,260 gold, and Summon Butterflies, which they have in the Book of Beasts for 660. Okay, so eventually, if I get a lot of money, that will be some place to come back. That will be a place. This will be a store that I might want to come back to. That Goliath beetle is mauling me now, so I'm going to run back upstairs. I am now back where the shaft originally dropped me. So let's see what we've got here. Yeah. So that's basically the stuff that I really wanted to get out of the way and say that, you know, the reasons this run worked so well last time and what I should do differently this time. I also have commented a couple times how I kind of sort of started the process of training up my... I started training up my skill with... Sorry, not training. This is my problem when I'm trying to do 2 things at once. I was trying to... I enchanted all of those arrows earlier than I should have because it took me so long to find an altar to Okuwaru. So what I'm doing this time, you know, if I have to enchant arrows, I have to enchant arrows. No question about it. But I'm going to hold off on wasting scrolls of enchant weapon on arrows until I have 200 or so arrows to do it on. Maybe more, maybe less, but 200 to 300 is my target number. Oh, this is too perfect. They're both there in one nice big bundle. I can't spam Mephitic quite yet because at this point I'm still 50% caster, and so I need that mana. But whenever they're together like that, it's too perfect to pass up. Okay, that's one down. Now it's just the other, and we're gonna Mephitic the places that she's likely to walk into. Because she's Berserk, and I do not want to fight a Berserker without, you know, special talents. At hand. Okay, there we go. They're both down now. Meanwhile, my Mephitic Cloud is now up to very good status, partially because I've received 1 level in air, poison, magic, spellcasting's up to 6, conjuration's up to 5. Plus, I had some item or the other that gave me intelligence, I think. +4 to intelligence with a ring, so that's all good. And I'm just reading the scrolls I have the most of to try and find an identify spell. But it's not the ones I had the most of, and I don't want to... I have a bunch that I have just 2 of. I guess I can try those one by one. Alright, Ring of Magical Power. I now have 28 mana. That's enough to start spamming stuff, so... If I had been running a vanilla Conjurer, this would not be a bad start to a game at all. But I don't want to run this as a Conjurer. Pergy is a troll, if I recall correctly. He is a thin troll. If he's a thin troll, that means he's probably weaker than your average troll, and with any luck, he will hand over some trollish armor for me. But with a little bit less luck, he just won't take any damage. This is not the time to focus on actually stabbing him. This is the time to shoot him. Oh, there we go. There's the troll corpse. If I butcher it... Yay! He left troll hide. Troll hide is not the same as troll armor. It is just a hide, but if you enchant it, it will become troll armor, which is awesome. Any one of these could be a scroll of enchant armor, so I'm going to test them one by one. Scroll of teleport, scroll of enchant weapon 2, magic mapping. It gives me the option. That means it's either recharge, identify, or enchant armor, and it can't be identify because I already identified that, so it must be one. It's 50-50. Let's try it on the troll hide. Didn't work, so that was for recharge. Let's keep looking. Curse armor. Didn't do anything. This is going to be remove curse then. Okay. Well, back to where we started. We still haven't found an enchant armor scroll, and those scrolls aren't exactly common. They can appear in large numbers, but early on it's just as common that they won't appear for a long time. Yeah, that Goliath beetle's going to be a pain to take at melee range. He's a zombie, so he won't regenerate, and won't follow me upstairs. But let's go to a different staircase so I can shoot him from a distance. Yeah. But this is so far proving to be a very, very promising start to a run. The downside, of course, being that I would have liked to find an early altar to Okuwaru, or, you know, an altar at least on floor 4, which is the earliest the Ecumenical Temple can appear. Instead, I still haven't found an altar. Oh, he's actually been Mephitic'd. I still haven't found an altar, which is not as nice, but, you know, you take what you can. As at this point, if you were to do a search for arrow, you'll see that there's at least 31 arrows in the dungeon, so, you know, when eventually I do start shooting. There's the centaur who's going to give me a bow, assuming it doesn't kill me first. Let's throw a mephitic out in its way. I have to approach it, otherwise I'm not going to be able to land the shot. There we go. It's nice and confused now. I say nice and confused because it is nice and confused. Okay, I now have a bow and arrows, and plenty of arrows, not counting the 30-odd arrows that I've already searched the dungeon and found out were there. So we're going to go ahead, take our time, regenerate. Let's go ahead and remap my items to my usual slots. So map my dagger to E, map my bow to W, drop my uncursed dwarven dagger because I'm not using that anymore. And oh, actually WW. Start shooting the Goliath beetle from range. Now, it's going to take a while to build up my skill with bows to anything reasonable, but what I want to do right now is force this percent as high as possible, so I'm dumping a lot of experience into it. Then I'll start, you know, originally I really just primarily going to keep playing the caster archetype, but right now 14% of all experience gained is going to bows, which is where I want it to be, and none of it is going to magic, which is not my main. So, you know, what I'm supposed to be doing. Okay, that's it. That might be my Scroll of Enchant Armor. It is. I now have a wearable, uncursed, trollish leather armor that was once pergy, and I'm going to put that on. I'm still getting very good spell casting, no doubt because of all of the pluses I've kept putting in and that I already have 4 levels of armor. My AC is kind of pathetic right now because I don't have much armor on. In fact, I'm missing pretty much every slot. But that's okay, it'll go up with time. And less time, honestly, and more a matter of training and items. I don't even want to get into melee range on this guy. He can beat me up really badly. Bows is now capable of being trained, so it is going to be my new focus skill. Armor will be trained slowly. Eventually I'm going to turn on long blades, and then I'll have my usual, my intended set of abilities. Anything else is a bonus. I just got a +2 cloak, so really I'm just missing boots and a shield now, and I'm not even sure whether or not I'm going to get a shield this time around. It'll really depend on how helpful shields are for a guy like me. Let's see how much that intelligence is really helping me. I still get very good casting without it. With it I get... with it I'm getting... same, very good. With it my hunger is at strawberry levels for mephitic. Without it my hunger is at... choco levels. Okay. I'm convinced. I'd rather save on food right now than have an extra 28 odd mana. So, let's keep it on. Because, admittedly, I don't really need the mana very much. Actually, I kind of do. I'm still at the point in the game where I'm still a caster. My, Christmas comes early. Pair of boots. I got voodoo, I got hoodoo, I got things I ain't even tried. And I got friends on the other side. Notice that I'm using exclusively my magic dart pretty much now, but it's my bow skill that's going up because, again, that's how I want it. And trollish leather armor's already found it in effect. So even though I haven't found a nice early altar to Okuwaru, I still consider this a relatively lucky run. I had the bad luck of running into wargs, but I managed to survive it, which turned my bad luck into less than bad luck. Won't go so far as to say good luck, but, you know, take what you get. And I don't consider it lucky at all that I met the centaur when I did. Centaurs always spawn by floor 4 or 5. I mean, I don't know if that number is actually real, but you know, they spawn by roughly floor 4 or 5 every time. I mean, any of you who have made a long run know that you'll run into centaurs. The only difference is normally that's considered bad luck because centaurs will kill you. Well, I beg to differ thanks to my mythical build. Blinking. Oops. Okay, so far so good. More arrows, leave the corpses, regret that I cannot sacrifice said corpses, which is kind of my instinct right now. Always a hard part of starting a new game after a bad game is remembering that you are no longer playing the previous game, so don't act like you're that strong anymore, because you're not. And this is a lesson that I am particularly bad about. Oh, what the heck? Oh, that's an N, not an M. There we go. Orcish mines. I was correct earlier when I assumed that that's what it was that was down here. Damn smiter. I didn't even realize I was being smitten, and that's why I lost so much health. Thank God for trollish armor, eh? I'm gonna be back to full health in no time. So, let's just keep running. Throw down a cloud to prevent being followed. Oh, there's more than one of them. Damn things come in packs, man. I'm not gonna chase it because I don't want to find out that there's something even worse waiting for me there till my health is back. Once my health is back, I'm less concerned. Alright, let's go to the other edge here. I think I'm going to skip the rest of this level if I can, because I doubt the Ecumenical Temple is here. There's a lot of stuff. I mean, I've explored the majority of the floor, so there's not a whole lot of places it could be, and there are a lot of orcs, and the orcish mines here, so that would mean that both sub-branches happen to spawn on the same floor. Instead, I'm going to continue looking elsewhere for it, and save whatever orcs are left here for a piety boost, because orcs I can slay fairly easily with my combo. Okay, that's... If you look at the minimap, you'll see that I have explored everything on this floor save this unknown area down here. I would have to be the unluckiest guy alive for that to be the one area where the Ecumenical shows up. Oh yay, a special bow. And once again I'm overloaded due to all of the rotting meat I'm carrying with me, so drop that. Definitely going to use my next at-will stat boost on more strength. Okay, thus far this run is going exceptionally, well not exceptionally, it's going very well. I got a little bit lucky in that I got a complete set of armor already, a little bit unlucky in that I'm already on the 7th floor. The temple is guaranteed to appear at latest on the 7th floor, and I still haven't found Okuwaru. A little bit lucky in that I found a lot of good arrows anyway, despite, you know, that. And apparently at some point I got a mutation that made me minus 10% HP, which is a little less than lucky. So add it all together and it comes out about neutral. I nearly died to wargs chasing me down after I fell down a shaft, which was unlucky, but it was partially my fault because I walked towards what I thought was, you know, orcish mines for exploration instead of realizing I was underleveled. So, tomato, tomato, it came out about even. Anyway, look forward to seeing you guys later when I continue Elf-4's run. We'll see how successful he becomes.